name is Siobhan Golden. I'm Technical Artistic Director here at the Toni&Guy London Academy and also for Label M. The look I'm going to show for you today is a look inspired by our current collection, which is 50/50. It's about representing 50% of our Toni&Guy heritage, which is really important to us and has brought us to where we are today, and about 50% of what's happening today and in the future, so looking at slightly more progressive techniques. The look I'm inspired by is called the art, and the art is our longest brunette image in the collection. It's a beautiful, natural, soft look with tones of walnut and deeper mahoganies. But what I want to do today is take a little bit of technique and a little bit of placement from the art, but work it with a lot more of a grungy feeling. So we're actually going to do a bit different from what she is at the moment and work with burgundies and red wine tones in the hair, keeping a deeper root and then brighter elements through the perimeter so we get lots of texture. As you can see with my model Bella's hair, she's got a beautiful face shape, and what we want to do is bring this back and really drape it over the face and frame it. So I want to allow a lot of my detail to fall through here. Working with a crescent section from where her parting is naturally to in behind the ear, scooping down through the hairline and then in towards the recession point, and that forms my first crescent shape. Through here I'm going to layer up my detail, so working with my burgundy and red wine tones, but also with that slightly deeper root. Through the crown area, working with the shape of the head and the layering pattern that's existing, all of the perimeter will be detailed. This we want one heavy block colour. So taking out quite a freehand sectioning, continuing from my crescent, and then scooping up inwards towards the parting, you can see how much density of hair and length we have underneath, and the layering pattern that's sitting over the top. This will be our veil. So it's going to be one block colour through here, and then lots of detail and texture underneath. Step one of my technique is my iridescent walnut tone that I'm going to apply to all of the regrowth. The best way to approach this application is to paint on the perimeter of the section first, so you have a guide that you can keep nice and neat and clean. And to try and work within smaller subsections. Obviously we have a lot of hair in the perimeter, so by working with quarters instead of the whole, we can allow a lot more of a disciplined approach. Now the outline is done, I'm going to work using diagonal forwards towards the face, and using the square of my brush, apply to all of my regrowth. Now splitting this again into a much more manageable section, I'm going to approach the technique in the same way, outlining the section first, and then working through with my root application. Now product-wise, what we want to achieve is a little bit of a healthier finish for our model's hair. She's naturally quite dark, so I'm working with a quasi-permanent colour to create lots of gloss, little bit of a tonal reflect, that's the iridescent mauve that I'm talking about, and lots of healthy shine. On long hair, I think that's super important, and at the minute it's just a little bit duller looking towards the end. So that's what we want to make look a bit juicier. So now that my root application is complete, I'm going to start to work the detail of the shape. And the detail in the case of the art is about creating a surface flash of colour. So we're keeping the element of root stretch, which in terms of colour is something that's very relevant. We use quite a lot of in the salon and in our creative techniques. But creating a surface flash means that we get elements of colour that pop a little bit brighter, and then you create a little bit more depth towards the end. We're going to introduce two tones, one burgundy and one a deeper red wine. We're working through the midband with our burgundy application, and then towards the lengths and ends, we're actually reapplying our root colour, which was that iridescent walnut tone. We have that flash of colour coming through the interior, but then you go into a little bit more depth again through the lengths and ends. I'm working diagonally back from the face. The reason for this is working diagonally away from the face means that when the hair falls naturally, it's actually going to fall at a beautiful angle that's really going to sit and frame the face and the features of her jaw and her eyes. Now, working on previously pre-lightened hair means that you've got different levels of porosity to deal with, so it's quite important that you apply plenty of product, that you prep the hair well. So in the case here of prepping the hair, I've actually worked with the Label M protein spray as a pre-colour treatment, and what it achieves is an even porosity from roots to ends of the hair. I'm still keeping the hair in 4/4. There's a few reasons for this. The first is disciplined, it's easier to manage. The second is I can create a slightly deeper root area or longer root area as I move away from the face. So I've now reached the opposite side, still working through the perimeter. As you can see, compared to the first side that we worked on, we're now working diagonally back away from the face so that we get the same effect that we achieved on the first side, which is everything falling very softly to its natural fall in towards her face and framing it. Moving on to my crown area, what we want to achieve is a slightly deeper veil, so we get a little bit more strength, masking over the existing colour that we've just placed through the perimeter. So how we're going to go about this is applying our root colour with the iridescent walnut tone. Again, as I said initially, the best way to approach it is to outline the section first, and that way you can make sure that you don't intrude on what's happening above or below it, and we can keep a really disciplined approach to the application. Now, working through here, taking horizontal sections, I'm just going to drop everything down and work my root application, pretty much following the colour that's there at the moment, but always working the roots first, as it allows the roots to have a slightly longer development time, which they need. We don't need to isolate each section because it's the same colour that's going from roots to ends throughout the whole of the crown area. But we do need to place the first one on the mesh just so that we create a little bit of cleanliness, and it means we can check on the development of the colour underneath a lot more effectively. I'm literally going to use my hands to massage the colour through the lengths and ends, and repeat this the whole way through the crown area. So as you can see, I've finished the crown area application, which was colour blocking roots, lengths and ends with my iridescent walnut tone. Through the fringe area, this is a real beautiful element of the existing shape and what Gary's going to put into it a little bit later. So what I want to do is move away from that base colour, start to create something a bit deeper and a bit moodier against the face. And how we're going to do that is take the colour from our detail that we used in the perimeter, which was our burgundy and our red wine, and create detail solely using that, so leaving out the iridescent walnut tone. First thing we're going to do is again mapping out the perimeter of the section, but this time we're using our burgundy tone as our root area. So as I said, something a little bit deeper and a little bit moodier looking. Just gently combing all of the fine baby hairs away from the face. And then working diagonally through to apply our root colour. So I've just completed my final colour placement technique. It was inspired by the art, which is part of our 50/50 heritage collection at Toni&Guy. As you can see, the detail is all through the perimeter, so working with a colour surface infusion of colour, working with red wine and burgundy tones. Through the crown area, we worked a colour blocking technique, so we're going to get lots of healthy shine, really beautiful veil of colour draping over all of this interior detail. And then through the front, this area is going to be a little bit more hidden. She wears her parting to this side, so working now with burgundy tone on the roots, and then very freehand using the red wine colour application through the ends, so that if she flips it over, we're going to see loads of that brightness and intensity of colour. If she wears it a bit flatter and wears it to where her parting sits, it's going to be really hidden and you're just going to get a little peek smudging through. This is the finished application. She's going to have her hair developed and be back with Gary for the haircut a little bit later on.
Hi guys, my name's Gary France, Label M International Educational Manager for toni&guy Essentials. What we'd like to do with you today is share with you a haircut from our toni&guy collection, which is called The Art. Now, the inspiration for this is from the 90s, very early 90s, when we started working with a young model called Yasmin Lebon. She was a new face and just started to get real recognition, and we actually worked a shoot in a magazine called ID, which still exists today. And it was the first time we'd really used a kind of supermodel, a well-known model, for our advertising campaigns. So this being a historical year for us, we wanted to look back at the history and be influenced by that, and then recreate some of the looks and moving forward to the next 50 years.